the planning board. Permit me to confirm that all members and persons anticipated on the agenda are present and can hear me. John Weddleton,
Aye, here.
Aaron Hunt,
Aye.
Chad Peck,
Here.
Gary Searle,
Here.
and Peter is missing, I believe.
So,
Rich, is Phil going to be with us this evening?
no, not for tonight.
Okay, all right. And we also have Rich McCarthy
Here.
and Amy Brady.
Yeah,
Thank you, Amy, for stepping in for Betsy.
absolutely.
Now, we have a number of people who will be speaking this evening when the topic that they're here for comes up. So good evening. This is the open meeting of the Planning Board. This and is being conducted remotely consistent with Governor Baker's executive order of March 12, 2020, due to the current state of emergency in the Commonwealth due to the outbreak of the COVID-19 virus. In order to mitigate the transmission of the COVID-19 virus, we have been advised and directed by the Commonwealth to suspend public gatherings, and as such, the governor's order suspends the requirement of the open meeting law to have all meetings in a publicly accessible physical location. Further, all members of public bodies are allowed to and encouraged to participate remotely. The order, which you can find posted with the agenda materials for the meeting, allows public bodies to meet entirely remotely so long as reasonable public access is afforded so that the public can follow along with the deliberations of the meeting. Ensuring public access does not ensure public participation unless such participation is required by law. This meeting will feature public comment. For this meeting, the Planning Board is convening via the Zoom application as posted on town's website, identifying how the public may join. Please note that this meeting is being recorded and some attendees are participating via this video conference. Accordingly, please be aware that other folks may be able to see you and take care that not to screen share your computer. Anything that you broadcast may be captured by the recording. All of the materials for this meeting have been posted and are available to all participants. So now let's go to the first meeting item on the agenda.
Excuse me for 1 minute, Mr. Chairman. I just want to make you aware that Peter has joined.
Oh, good.
Okay.
Hello, Peter.
Oh, Walter, sorry for the delay. I had connectivity issues.
Glad you're here.
Thank you.
All right. First order of business this evening is 7 Phillips Way / 19 Shire Drive, site plan special permit, stormwater management and earth removal permits. We have received a request for continuance. Have we not, Richard?
That's correct. We've received the email request.
All right. So we need a motion to continue this until our June 16th meeting at 7 p.m. Do I hear a motion?
So moved.
Do I hear a second?
Second.
Do we have any further discussion? All those in favor? Well, no, I'm going to do this. Sorry, we're going to do this by roll call. Mr. Weddleton.
Aye.
Mr. Hunt.
Aye.
Mr. Peck.
Aye.
Mr. Searle.
Aye.
Chair votes aye. It is a unanimous vote.
And I'm sorry,
Amy, you're on.
Amy, you're muted. I can't hear you.
excuse the interruption. Was that Erin made the motion and Chad seconded?
I made the motion, Gary, and I don't know who seconded it.
I seconded. Aaron seconded.
Aaron seconded it.
So Gary and Erin, if you
Yep.
don't mind, it would help me out because I don't know the voices.
That's
Okay.
fine.
Thank you.
All right, the second item this evening is to discuss our sidewalk policy. And Rich, which order of speakers would you prefer us to follow as we discuss this evening?
Well, I think I would suggest we have a special guest speaker tonight with us. Leola from Oliver from Cleveland Street, who had reached out to myself and then Representative Dooley learning about sidewalks and how you can get sidewalks put in your neighborhood. And we had a conversation last week, and I thought it'd be nice for her as someone at that age to be interested in this topic, to be able to just share a few words. I think she's going to read a letter, if I remember correctly. A few thoughts that she has relative to sidewalks. She lives at 15 Cleveland Street.
Well, welcome, Viola, and please read your letter.
Good evening. My name is Viola Oliver. I am a second grader at the HOD. Recently, I learned about being a good citizen, and something a good citizen can do is talk to leaders about making the community a better, safer place. I believe sidewalks will make my street and my town safer. For example, my street, Cleveland Street, needs sidewalks because cars go too fast and don't pay attention to families like mine as we walk or ride our bikes. Too many times we've seen accidents almost happen. So far, I've talked to Representative Dooley and Mr. McCarthy about this. I learned about the Complete Streets project, where Massachusetts gives money to towns for projects such as this. In closing, please add sidewalks to streets like mine to make Norfolk a better, safer place. Thank you.
Well, thank you very much, Viola. What you will find out in a few minutes is that Norfolk has a plan to improve our sidewalks in the town, and that we have a priority list where we try to put new sidewalks in as we have the money available to do that. And I'd like to turn it over now to our Assistant Director of DPW, Mr. Levier, who will tell you a little bit about that program and talk about what might be done on Cleveland Street. So Barry, please speak up.
Absolutely. So Viola, it's pretty interesting that you know about Complete Streets. So we went through a project last year where we identified priority roadways in town where we want to put sidewalks. So that's a pretty long list, and there's a lot of streets that we need to put sidewalks on. One of the problems we have is finding the funding to be able to put the sidewalks in. I wish I could put sidewalks everywhere that everybody wanted them, but unfortunately we can't. Some good news is there are some sidewalks coming on Cleveland Street. It'll be on the end of the street, bringing sidewalks to Route 115. So we'll have a little section there, so you'll be able to walk from your house to the end of the street and on the 115 pretty safely. Getting sidewalks in on all of Cleveland Street would be pretty difficult. There's things we have to deal with called right of way. There's easements, and like I said before, it's very expensive. Working with the planning board and Mr. McCarthy, one of our first plans is we found some new money, and we're going to be able to put this money to good work by identifying all the places where we have sidewalk issues, being able to fix those, and then making recommendations in the future where we need more sidewalks. How's that?
So, Barry, when might Viola see that piece of sidewalk on Cleveland Street in front of her house there?
It should probably be within this year. That we have a development going in the back over there called the Enclave, and part of that deal is there'll be sidewalks coming down. I can't remember the street. What street is it, Rich?
Village Green.
Yeah, Village Green. There'll be sidewalks coming down Village Green, taking the left, going right over to Rockwood Road. So hopefully we see that in the near future.
Well, thank you, Viola, for your interest, and thank you, Barry, for filling us in on what's going on with sidewalks. Rich, we have something else to discuss about sidewalks, do we not?
We do, yeah. So if you recall at the last meeting,
We have another participant here, huh?
Wasn't my dog.
Why?
Go ahead, Rich.
All right, so I apologize for my dog. At the last meeting, oh my goodness. At the last meeting, we had, I put together a draft of a sidewalk policy for the planning board to give consideration. And And one of the things that we talked about was, and Mr. Wilton brought it up, of giving a developer an option of actually either making a contribution to the sidewalk fund or actually make physical sidewalk improvements. So the revised, and I'll screen share it to show you the letter. Let me do that now. Oh boy.
Did you feed him, Rich?
Hold on a second. Matthew, can you get Teddy to be quiet, please? So a couple of changes from the previous version of the letter that I prepared for this meeting was there's two provisions within the regulations for sidewalks. As you know, there's the sidewalks that run along the existing roadway along a property's frontage, and then there's in cases where there's a new development, then there's sidewalk requirements based on the subdivision regs, whether it's based on the scale or size of the development, whether it's at least one sidewalk or two sidewalks. So we wanted to actually account for that in the policy letter here, that we're really there's two different provisions that we're going to be talking about relative to sidewalks. One of the things that we did talk about was trying to derive at a dollar amount based on a per linear foot base for the sidewalk construction cost. And Barry had prepared numbers based on what a private developer would pay for a new sidewalk or repairing sidewalks, and then the same case for DPW. And we did a comparison, and between the two rates, which is I took let me see, I'll stop screen sharing so I can actually talk about it. But we took the cost for private sector versus public sector and came up with that. You saw $30 a linear foot in the letter, which was a blended average rate. So what we wanted to do is at least establish some value, so that way when somebody comes before us, they have an idea and the board has an idea going in what that potential dollar amount would be if they were to choose the option of putting money into the fund. The second thing we're doing with the policy is we're changing it to work with our complete streets, where there might be sidewalks that we're trying to put in other locations in town that might be better suited than a sidewalk for a development as they come along. And so we want to be able to have the flexibility either to put new sidewalk in that location physically, or take the money to then pay for design engineering for us to go after grant money to install sidewalks. Because as Barry mentioned, a lot of the challenges with the new sidewalks as we go to put them in is the roadway, as far as where the road sits in the right of way. As you know, there might be easement issues that we need to address. And then there are some of the sidewalks will need some design money in some cases in order to construct them, to then submit for through the grant program through the state. So we're trying to do a little bit of what we have been doing in the past and blend it with some of the newer things that we're trying to approach when it comes to complete streets today. So that's kind of the overview of what we're talking about for this evening.
Yeah, I think Rich makes a great point there. You know, complete streets is a great idea, but we need the seed money to be able to do the design. They really want shovel-ready projects. So we've identified some great projects in town, but we need the money to be able to fund the engineering and the design so that we can get the grant money to actually install the sidewalks that we want. I mean, we'll be competing with all the other cities and towns in Massachusetts, so we want to be able to make our projects stand out above everybody else. So this will go a long way to help that. The other option I'd like to do with this money is just to do an overall assessment and study of all the sidewalks we have in town, a condition assessment. We're having a lot of issues, like I talked to you guys before about the street trees, really deteriorating a lot of sections of sidewalks throughout the whole entire town of Norfolk. So we can get a study, an assessment that I'd understand what it's going to take to repair what we need to repair and install new where we need to install new. So this could all work out very well for us.
Barry, is it not true that there's a certain small amount of money already available in an account controlled by DPW for?
Yeah, we had originally found this. I know this was like Christmas to me when I found we was talking to Rich. We had that in there. I think the big part is by changing the language that you're proposing now. The way it was written, we didn't really have the flexibility to do any studies or anything like that. We could only do installation of new sidewalks. So by changing the language and working out the numbers we're working on, I think this will really help us out in the future.
Well, from your point of view, is the draft that Rich has prepared of our policy adequate for capturing what you need?
Yeah, absolutely. It's
okay. All right. Then I think the board needs to consider adopting this as our policy, this draft, which we've been working on for a couple of months. Do we have any comments from board members about the draft that Rich has prepared? Well, if not, then I would welcome a motion to adopt this as our policy on sidewalks. I need a motion to that effect.
Walter, sorry, I was trying to dig up files from last month on the costs. Remind me again how we settled on 30 as the appropriate cost?
Rich can tell you, it was a blend between DPW costs and private developer costs. Is that not right, Rich?
That's correct. Yep. I can, if you want, I can dig in. I can pull it up on the screen if you want to take a look at it.
Yeah, I had pulled a bunch of different scenarios together for asphalt, concrete sidewalks. What would it cost a DPW to replace or install new? What it would cost a developer to replace or install new? I think we came up with a good average number that kind of covers everything.
Does the language need to include something about the strip of land that's in front of the property and borders the street so that the town always retains that in case you want to put sidewalks end to end in the town someday? Do we actually need to specify that, or that's just a given?
That'd probably come out of any planning board review and DPW reviews. The big issue we're going to have is all the road widths are so variable that I don't want to get anything in writing to saying, here's a specific frontage or a specific length where we're going to be all over the place.
Okay.
Rich, can I ask a question?
Sure. Go ahead.
Or is there any way we could have the option of having somebody putting sidewalks on both sides of the street in a subdivision taken out, forcing them to put the sidewalk in a place where it's better needed? Because two sidewalks in one road is really overkill when there's so many streets in town that don't have any. And I'm just afraid that where somebody's on a site, it's going to be much more convenient to just put two sidewalks in rather than pay the money or put a sidewalk someplace else.
Yeah, I think that's where we need to, well, I would say we have this policy and we'll have a cost per linear foot. But I think, John, I agree with you. If we get in a situation where somebody's like, listen, I'm just going to do X, what's in the regulations, it's going to be a balance. And we want to try to encourage them in some cases, especially when there's two sidewalks. I think we probably will be in a good position to encourage them that they're probably going to want the waiver on the second one. And I think we can do that. I would say we want to try to advocate for that. The idea would be to exactly take if it requires two,
Right now, it's 2, correct?
right. So you have really limited up to, I want to look at on the residential, it's up to 7 units, 7 homes where there's only 1 sidewalk. So really, for the most part, anything above 7 houses is going to require 2 sidewalks under the regulations right now. So unless we have like a smaller scale development, so it would require 2. So I think we would be in that, or at least I think somebody would come in with that thought that we could encourage them to request a waiver.
But again, that's a different conversation than the one we're having now.
No, it's part of it. No, it's part. Because there's 2 sidewalk requirements. So we have the one.
Right, but we're not talking about the zoning guidelines that require sidewalk on both sides of the street. We're talking about what the appropriate amount of money is if a developer decides they'd rather contribute to the sidewalk fund than build the second sidewalk. They're 2 different subjects. Right?
Well, it's not really, because we're talking about components. One is the price, one is taking the money and giving it to the town and letting him construct the sidewalk and another part of the town that the town directs. So there's really 3 components. The price is one thing. My only point is, if somebody has the option to put, he has a 1,000-foot road and he puts in sidewalks on both sides and forgoes putting it in another part of town where it's needed, then you've got overkill on one street and we miss out having 1,000 feet of sidewalk in a place that it's needed. So it really is part of the same thing.
Don, I talked to Rich a little bit about this. I think it's going to be a tough stretch to get a developer that's building, let's say they're building off of Main Street and they're in a certain area and we want them to build sidewalks over on Seacong Street. I think that's going to be a little bit tough to do. With the mobilization, if someone's building in one location and we want them to mobilize and move all over to another location to build sidewalks, I think that's going to be a tough stretch for us.
But he could also give the money.
Yeah, they could give the money. I think the key here is us getting that money, either them constructing that single sidewalk that they need to build as part of their subdivision, and then giving us the money so that we can move forward with everything that we want.
Right. And to John's point, that's all outlined in this letter, that those options, they can build the sidewalks, they can build a sidewalk in a different location as negotiated with the DPW, or they can contribute to the fund.
Right.
That's all laid out in the letter. Right, so then there's the question of the amount, right? So I guess, which is what I really wanted to question.
Yeah, and Rich had put up that amount.
Yeah, I could put it back up.
Put it back up, yeah.
The document we looked at last month, for the DPW to create a 5-foot new sidewalk, it's $70 a linear foot, right? For a developer, it's $22 a linear foot. It's a linear foot. So the average to that, the average of 70 and 22 is 45. So I'm curious as to how we got to 30.
I took the average between the 2. So you have 63, and then you have 2 different numbers there on the private side. You got 56 feet, $56.19. Let me see, do the math real quick.
But that's repair versus new, right? I mean, we really want to talk about new sidewalks. No?
Well, I think from the DPW side, most of our stuff is going to be more on the repair side. The new are going to be major projects with engineering and design and everything behind it. So that's going to be, it's going to be a quite larger number.
Right. So for any development that's going in, it would be, the cost to the developer would be a new sidewalk.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. So again, 30 sounds not like an average to me. If it costs DPW $70 a linear foot and it costs the developer $22 a foot, the average is 45.
Didn't we hear developers say they wouldn't pay that? They'll just put sidewalk for $22 a linear foot in front of their property?
Yeah, I was trying to get to I guess the idea was to get to a price per linear foot that we would not discourage them to give us money, I guess.
Yes.
Yeah, I think the issue we were looking at, the $10 we had in there originally, or it's been going on for a few years, was pretty low. So we need to raise it so we can have some funds. And where's the happy medium? I think Rich got the 30 because basically the cost per square yards here are all based on a 500-foot length of roadway. So the actual cost per linear foot. So for DPW, it's 56 and 33. The average is 44. Developer is 18 and 13. So the average is 60. And so I think that's where you got your 30, Rich.
That's,
Well,
go ahead.
I just put in 2,000 feet of sidewalk last fall. And I'll tell you, it cost me more in the range of $35 to $40 a foot. And the reason why this whole item is so hard to quantify is probably one of the biggest costs, I think probably could be even more than the paving, is the cost of the gravel to prepare the sub base. So if you've got an area that's on organic soil, the cost to dig that out, to put in a foot and a half of gravel, compact it, and then tar, you're talking for a developer probably more higher in the range of $40 a foot. If the gravel is in place and all you've got to do is compact it and put the 2 coats of paving on, then it's probably more in the range of 25 to 30. So it's, like I said in the past, it's a very hard number to quantify. I think 30, if I were looking at it and I didn't need a second sidewalk, I think for 1,000 feet of sidewalk for $30,000, that would be enticing enough to me to pay the town the money.
John, I have to agree with you on that one. There's a lot of variables that go into this, so to come up with a standard number was kind of difficult. I just don't know every situation you're in. So I agree with you. I think that $30 is a good middle ground.
Well, it's also true that if we adopt a number, let's say we adopt 30, that we can revisit this in a year or two after we've had some experience with it and say, hey, the $30 is a valid number, or we want to change it because we're losing money every time we do this. And so let's boost it to 40 or whatever the number might be. So we will have an opportunity to change that in the future.
Yeah, I think, no, that's a fair point. I think if it's, we get a number to work from to start, and if it seems like it's not working, we can revisit the number. And
All
or
right, so with that, I'll say one more time, are we prepared to have a motion to adopt this as our sidewalk policy? This draft that Rich has prepared.
So moved.
Do we have a second?
Second.
All right, Chad has seconded. Any further discussion? Rich, there's a couple of typos that I'd like to fix on it, but
certainly.
But no big deal. But that's just a typing thing. All right, we'll take a roll call vote. Mr. Weddleton,
Aye.
Mr. Hunt,
Aye.
Mr. Peck,
Aye.
Mr. Searle,
Aye.
and the chair votes aye. And Mr. Peters' opinion?
I can't find that unmute button fast enough.
Okay. All right.
Yes, I agree.
And who made the motion that Chad seconded, please?
Gary.
Gary, thank you.
All right, turning back to our agenda, the next topic on the agenda is the public hearing for annual town meeting proposed zoning amendments. Gary, do you have a statement that you're ready to read into the record?
This is for the 2 changes in the bylaw?
Yep.
Okay. Do you want me to just read the first 2 paragraphs or read the entire document?
Read the notice.
Read the notice. That's all you have to read.
Okay. Notice is hereby given in accordance with Mass General Law, Chapter 40A, subsection 5, that the Norfolk Planning Board will hold a public hearing on Tuesday, May 12th, 2020 at 7:30 p.m. at the Norfolk Town Hall, 1 Liberty Lane, Norfolk, to discuss proposed changes to the Norfolk zoning bylaws, which have been submitted to the warrant for the annual town meeting.
Thank you, Gary.
So I'm going to, I will screen share the language right now so everyone can take a look at it. So the first article is removing the provision that would allow for a two-family as an option within the affordable housing bylaw. If you recall from the discussion, this first came forward when Cranberry Heights was before the planning board. They were trying to give consideration to do a two-family. And I think the more that we analyzed and dug into it, it seemed really infeasible to be able to make it work as a two-family and still work within the context of a development. And the thought being that there's not really a valid reason to have it on there for really, in practicality, we really can't work with it. So the thought was just to remove it from the affordable section of the bylaw. And I did have some other conversations later after that with the Affordable Housing Trust as well. And they did agree with, although I don't have anything in writing from them, we did discuss that at a meeting, and I think it dovetailed a little bit nicely when we had the whole discussion with the affordability, even with Norway Farms, that although it's on tonight, it's not related to that specifically, but the whole notion of trying to integrate affordable, inclusive development, that there are other ways to accomplish the same goal. So this would just delete it from the bylaw.
All right, discussion by board members.
I don't know, the next to the last clause, do you want to delete that? There is no alternate language in bold.
What's this reserved for future use?
No, just before the strike through language, you have what one actually reads, the next to the last phrase says, and inserting the new language in bold print. But
Yeah,
you
the new-
eliminated the whole, you're just deleting it all. There is nothing to insert, right?
No, there is. See here where my
What's that?
cursor is?
Oh, I'm sorry. I'm looking at my paper and not yours.
Yeah. So we can, oftentimes when you delete a section, sometimes you reserve that space for the future in case you want to add something back in. So that's why
Okay, I'm good.
yeah, that provision in there.
All right, Rich, you want to take these one at a time in terms of a motion to support this article? Or do you want to wait till we get to the end?
Well, first we want to open to the public for public comments.
Fair enough. Anyone in the Zoom audience care to comment on the proposed revisions to this section of the bylaw? Hearing none, then I propose that we have a motion to support this revision to section H3E2 of the bylaw.
So moved by Aaron.
Do we have a second?
Second, Gary.
And any further discussion? Hearing none, we will take the roll call vote. Mr. Weddleton,
Aye.
Mr. Hunt,
Aye.
Mr. Peck,
Aye.
Mr. Searle,
Aye.
chair votes aye. Mr. Saab's opinion?
I agree.
Okay. It is a unanimous vote. All right, next article, Rich.
So the next article is Article 18. Just for a little bit of background, as the B1 committee had started doing their work, analyzing the B1 zoning, one of the things that came through the discussion was the fact that the existing zoning bylaw was regulating by bedrooms, which is actually one of the tenets of something you can't do relative to discrimination based on familial type. At the time when we're doing the B1 study, I was not aware that the Department of Housing Community Development and the Attorney General's office had reached out to the town of Norfolk back, I want to say, I think it was like 2011, 2013, somewhere in that time frame, about putting an article before town meeting to remove this provision of the zoning bylaw. It was brought to our attention by a former planning board member while we're doing the B1 study. So this article that is crafted here in Article 18 was actually something that was drafted by Kay Doyle, who was an attorney at Copeland and Page when Copeland and Page was town council for the town of Norfolk. We're still doing work relative to B1. I don't know what the outcome will be, but regardless, I think there was attention to the town to take care of this several years ago. I think it makes sense to do it now and not wait and have it on the books any longer. So that's what this article does. It removes that provision.
All right, comments from from board members?
Just to repeat what Rich said in short, that, this is just cleaning up the language for something that's actually not allowed by law. So it's not really effectively changing the zoning guidelines. It's removing the term dwelling units from the language.
Anyone else on the board? All right, if not, anyone in the Zoom audience care to comment on this proposed revision?
Peter Diamond here through the chair. Can you hear me?
Yep.
Yes.
Just a quick question on this existing zoning bylaw with the 2 bedrooms. And do you have any history on how this was approved back in the day, given the nature of discrimination that you have presented tonight? Just curious. Thank you.
All right, Peter. I don't have any particular history on it. Maybe Rich does. Rich?
I don't know beyond, well, let me say this. I have been told, or at least I've heard from more than one attorney over the years have stated there have been bylaws that were adopted by towns that upon maybe a further scrutiny could be challenged as unlawful. So the fact that it was adopted at one point doesn't insulate you from the fact that it might be incorrect and should be addressed. Beyond, I think, like I said, there was Department of Housing Community Development and the Attorney General's office had reached out to the town of Norfolk about this provision that it was discriminatory and wanted the town to take action on it. It didn't take action on it several years ago. I don't know the back reason why that didn't happen necessarily, but I think what we do know now, and I think we knew then too, but it only makes sense to correct it. I don't think it really puts the town in a good position as we continue to move forward. And we have 40Bs that are before the town right now, and we're not at 10%, and we're not there yet. So we really need to take this action, because when we want to give ourselves the best position so that when we need to go to the Department of Housing Community Development, and there might be a need at some point, if something comes forward, we want to be in good standing with them and not, have them look as if we're not being proactive when it comes to housing. And so I think there's a value to that. I can't give you an actual value per se what it might be, but I certainly think we need to correct this.
Thank you,
Rich, I
Rich.
think you showed us the letter too, did you not, that they had sent?
Yeah, there was, I sent that out a while ago. I don't know if you're, yeah, I don't have it. I can dig it out if you want it, but
No, but we did get a letter from them.
yes.
Thank you, Rich. I was just more curious because all our bylaws are approved by the Attorney General. So at the time, maybe they overlooked this, or it was not discrimination at the time to adopt the 2-bedroom bylaw. I think I agree with the proposal to take away the 2-bedroom limit. I was just more looking for some history on how it was originally adopted, if it is discriminatory. Thank you.
Yeah, you're welcome. Peter, just as an aside, not completely related, they constantly, I think the level of review has improved over the years relative to bylaws that are being put forth by towns. So it's not totally surprising, just based on where we are today versus in the past.
All right, any other comments from anyone on the Zoom, in the Zoom audience?
I see no hands raised.
Hearing none, then the chair would entertain a motion to have the planning board support this revision to our bylaw.
So moved by Aaron.
Second.
Second by Chad.
All right, we'll take a roll call vote. Mr. Weddleton,
Aye.
Mr. Hunt,
Aye.
Mr. Peck,
Aye.
Mr. Searle.
Aye.
Mr. Searle?
Aye.
Chair votes aye, and we'll get the opinion of our associate member.
It's good.
Okay. Thank you all. Moving along, our next item is to set a hearing for the zoning petition we have received from citizens for the annual town meeting. And we need to do that at our next meeting. Is that not true, Rich?
Yes, June 16th.
June 16th. We will have a public hearing for the citizen petition. We happen to have the originator of that citizen petition with us this evening in Miss Betsy Whitney. And we would like to hear Betsy describe what her intent is here.
What she's got cooked up. My name is Elizabeth Whitney, 26 Valley Street in Pondville. And yes, I have submitted a citizen's petition warrant article, and thank you very much for welcoming me tonight. Shall I read the article?
I can share it on the screen. So
We can
people
share it on the screen while you talk.
Okay. I wanted to update the board as to what I have done. The goal is residential. That's what we are. That's where we have come from. It's been a long trip. And so far, I have done the following. Number one, I obtained the correct form, the citizen's petition for town meeting warrant article. I collected the required 10 signatures of registered voters. I submitted the citizen's petition to the select board by Tuesday, May 5th, the deadline. And I remotely attended this select board meeting on May 5th, which was a first for me, and confirmed that yes, the citizen's petition had indeed been received by the required deadline date. So now if I could elaborate just a bit. My focus areas are the undeveloped parcels of land in the C1D district on Valley Street, Hill Street, Old Pond Road, and parts of both Pine Street, or 115, and Dedham Street, Route 1A, which lie in Pondville in the C1D district and may be pursued for development. And why have I done this? As a long time Pondville resident, some 39 years now, which I've said many times, I would sincerely love to have available the option of residential development by special permit in the off and on highway locations in District C1D. If successful, this would add to the off-highway residential trend already voted overwhelmingly and begun at town meeting in 2013. And that was bylaw J7A23. And on a personal note, this particular town meeting, which I remember so well, the bylaw change voted 61 yes, 16 no, I believe is recorded proof that Pondville and the town of Norfolk in general have spoken. I think it's very important to remember that this bylaw proposal is not intended to take away or stop commercial as a development right. It is simply adding the option to also be able to develop residentially, should a developer wish to go that route. And again, I emphasize that special permit is the safeguard. So I am hoping that this article can be included in the town warrant so that perhaps Pondville will have the opportunity, at least the opportunity, to round out the residential areas that have already started in our district. Thank you, and I'll be very happy to answer questions.
Well, thank you, Betsy. I think one of the things that is a bit confusing to me and to Rich and to one or two other members of the board is we thought that what you're proposing is already allowed. And Rich would, I think, back that up by telling you where in the bylaws we believe what you're proposing is already written. So Rich, could you point that out?
Sure. Just to understand it, so this use C1D is where what does allow this residential density. So I'm wondering, so it sounds like your intent was just to add, and I'm just going to use my cursor, that you just wanted to add this language right here, not the C1D, because that already exists. This here, this provision under the J7A1C.
I thought that referred to off highway. I'm including and on highway.
Right. So
okay,
this does refer to off highway, but I understand listening to you that you wanted to put it under this section. So that the context of it isn't correct as far as what you're trying to do. So I think if the board
you
will
understand. Oh, do you want?
Yeah, I understand your intent.
Yes.
It's just not written that way. That's all.
Could I don't know how a person, if I have not written it correctly, if you are getting my intent. Go ahead.
Yeah, so when the planning board holds the hearing on the 16th, they can, if they would like to support the amendment, they could offer up a motion to amend it so that the language is
Correct.
correct the way you're intending it to be. I mean, it's not really a significant change to make it fit within the section that you want. It's just it's referring to a section that's already allows that. That's all.
Well, I've been looking at maps on highway, off highway, this section, and it just seemed to me I
think it's good. I mean, it's good that the board understands what you were trying to do, and now they can hold a hearing and decide if they support it, and then have an amendment so it fits correctly under that section that you want. Which is on highway.
If this happens, then correct language would be presented.
Yeah, it would have to
encompass the intent of what I said.
Right. Yeah.
I think between now and next meeting, a friendly collaboration between Betsy and Rich might come up with an amendment to this language to accomplish what you want to accomplish, Betsy.
Okay. So,
yeah.
Okay.
Yep, and then the board could then weigh on the merits of the proposal, correct?
Okay.
About the context of it, you know.
So this is the plan. I will make an appointment just 6 feet away from you, and we can discuss this. And we can come up with the language that is correct.
Yeah.
Okay. That sounds good to me.
Rich, can you, in your words, describe what you think Ms. Whitney is proposing?
Yeah, so essentially it's allowing, so this is the C1, this is, the on-highway. So it would add multifamily housing in the C1 on-highway district by special permit by the planning board. So it'll go beyond just the, it'll go beyond the district over here where they, so it's going to be.
We can't see your screen, Rich.
Sorry. So the purple, see this kind of dark purple?
Yeah, except you took it down, Rich. We don't have it.
Not sharing your screen, Rich.
Oh, geez. All right, hold on. My apologies. What the heck?
So as an understudy of the zoning bylaws, I can attempt to try to say what I think is the answer to it, because
you see the screen now?
Mm-hmm.
Yes.
Okay. So the purple,
that's it.
In the C1D, which is that upper.
No, this purple here. See this purple?
No, that's C1. That's not a C1D only, though.
Yeah, C1D only.
Rich, can you pull up the zoning map?
Sure. Yeah. Can you see the map?
Yeah.
So this area right now is presently allows multifamily housing. That's what's on the books currently.
Right.
Which is J7A2E. This proposal would amend and add into section J7A1C special permit multifamily in the on-highway. This is the on-highway here, this purple. So
on-highway, yes.
On-highway. So Pine Street, Dedham Street.
No, Rich, I disagree. It's just within the C1D part that's on highway.
That's right, just in the C1D.
Not the on-highway in the other 3 sections of C1.
So you just want this section right here?
That's C1D.
Right here. See that C1D?
That's C1C. Yes. C1D is the other side of
1A.
Yeah, so,
Yeah.
so,
This section here?
Yep.
no.
Yes,
Yeah.
yes, that was correct.
All right, so let me
So we're
clarify.
talking about the on-highway section within C1D, not the on-highway section in the other three sections of C1.
That is correct,
Yeah,
not
okay,
the
all
other
right.
three sections,
Yep.
C1D only.
Right,
On
just,
hi-
so again, that's why we need to pull up the zoning map. There is no on-highway
C1D.
C1D.
No, there isn't. That's a whole new,
The on-highway is all C1.
right.
The off-highway comes with a letter, right? So C1 is your on-highway, your off-highway is C1, A, B, C, and D,
Yeah.
the four quadrants.
Right.
So, correct. So C1D on highway does not exist.
Well, we can make it exist by
Oh,
the
yeah.
appropriate language. Can we not?
I would love that chance.
It would probably be a revision to the J7A2E where it says off-highway C1D.
Yeah. We have to create another, well,
Yeah.
yeah. So we could, well, we'd follow it under, it would seem like it would follow J7A1C and create a new on-highway subset of a new sub-district. You know, you're
As an option, as a special permit option,
No, I
it
understand.
could be there as a possibility in an area that has, since 2013, has been moving in the residential vein.
Okay.
And I just felt that this would at least be a chance.
Well, as I was saying earlier, I'll just kind of work through it and see what, you know,
I would be very happy to meet with you remotely or however
you know,
we do these things to get the language tuned up.
you know,
I would love that dearly.
okay. Well, then we
Okay,
definitely,
good. Well, let's make that happen between now and the next meeting when we have the public hearing.
And
And we
that's
could-
June 16th?
Yes, June 16th. We can offer well, wait a minute. Rich, when is the town meeting alleged to occur?
I think it's most likely going to move to June 24th.
Okay. I just wanted to make sure that the 16th was now going to be ahead of the next town meeting.
I can't guarantee, I think it should be fine. I think they're,
Well,
Okay.
I mean, we're talking about changing zoning for the one commercial district that we have in town. I mean, is the zoning board hearing this?
well, that's kind of step two, Aaron. I mean, this is to have the hearing and let people, other boards be aware of it. You know, it just came in, you know, it came in as a citizen petition. So tonight was really, the idea is
The beginning.
the beginning to understand the intent of the bylaw because it didn't match up with the language right now. So
And I think, Aaron, when Shire Industrial Park was constructed in 2006, I personally felt, well, that's a very good thing. That can absorb commercial, industrial growth. Revenues can come from that. And Pondville, which historically, I mean, it started out as residential many years ago. It picked up in commercial, I think, in the middle to late 1950s. But certainly in the last, well, my husband and I moved here in 1982, and we have seen an interest in C1D growing in the residential vein. And we people who actually live here in Pondville see this as a very viable possibility. So I would love to explore it and hopefully make it work.
Okay, so we've got our next step lined up, and we thank you, Betsy, for filling us in on what your intent was.
Well, thank you, Walter and Rich, very much for
Okay.
the time you spent.
Hey, Walter, just one thing.
Walter, go ahead, John.
Rich, I think in the past, where you're going to bring a change like this, I think it's going to require a new zoning map for town meeting. I know that's been the past recommendations from town council.
Well, I agree with John's point there too, but I just think somebody needs to sit down with Ms. Whitney and go through this. I mean, there's nothing that prohibits residential development in the C1 district.
I was just going to ask the same thing. I don't know what this is really changing. Is there some limitation right now that stops the development on highway?
So I mean, I just think, you know, I think some people need to sit down and talk through what the right process is for this petition, what the right goals are and whatnot. I mean,
Okay, that would be wonderful. If the understanding of the present zoning laws need to be further explained, that would be definitely in order. The spirit of all this is, I would love to see this C1D area be able to develop residentially by special permit. Because there was the time when Valley Street, Hill Street, and Old Pond Road had been changed to commercial, period. And a number of years ago, it was voted residential by special permit. And I love having that option grow and expand for we folks down here. So I would love to meet with Rich and iron this.
I'm sorry, I realized I was on mute.
Oh, geez.
So just to clarify, that residential is not allowed on the C1 on highway. That's why this is being proposed.
where do you see that, Rich?
Huh?
Where do you see that?
It's not. If you look at J7A1A, that's all the allowable uses. There's no.
I'm looking at the prohibited uses. There's nothing in the prohibited uses that says residential.
Yeah, so our bylaw, if it's silent, it's deemed prohibited.
Well, I have the bylaw book and I read it and I got out of it that a special permit is in order, is now, I'm not an expert, but that's, so I think this needs to be looked at. I would welcome that.
I agree. Our bylaw is constructed where if it's not listed, it's deemed prohibited, and then some things are specifically prohibited.
Okay, we need to investigate. Good.
Right.
Great.
Any further discussion on this point?
Thank you very much for the time and the effort and the interest. Thank you.
All
Rick,
right,
I'll give you a call.
all right, Betsy. Thank you. All right, moving along, our next item on the agenda is 360 Main Street. Review the site plan special permit, stormwater management, and earth removal permit decisions, which Rich has prepared and circulated to us. Rich?
Yes. So I did circulate revisions to the 3 different decisions, which was the earth removal, the stormwater management permit. And then I did get a comment back from Gary a little bit later on this evening, and I'll screen share to show you. Incorporating the condition about the architecture. There was the option 1. He drew that to my attention. I just want to show you.
Yeah, there was just a little ambiguity around adopting the design review board's detail.
Yeah, so under condition, I'll just keep scrolling. So I put in here, architectural option 1 that includes a farmer's porch fence in front of the loading dock shall be included in the recommendations of the design review board. I don't think, correct me if actually I gotta delete this last one here. Just too quickly. Correct me if I'm wrong, Aaron, but I don't think design review is met, right, since the last.
Correct.
Okay. So what I did is I included that addition to this design review comment. And that was the one that was voted as a recommendation from the last, when the board closed the public hearing. So beyond that.
What's the issue that's open? I'm not clear on it.
No. This architectural option 1, I missed it. So Gary said, hey, I think we need to include that, which I just did. So that was the last.
All right. Okay.
And then this.
Are you screen sharing right now?
Yeah, why, you don't see it?
No, we're not looking at anything but you.
That stinks. All right, let's try this again. Do you see the screen now?
Yes.
All right. Okay. Sorry, I'll have to repeat myself. I didn't realize I wasn't screen sharing.
So page 5.
On page 5, yeah, I added architectural option into this condition for the design review board. And then the other comment that Gary made was I just spelled out SWIP, Stormwater Pollution Prevention Plan.
Yep.
Because it was abbreviated. And then that was it. So all the other comments have been added into this final document.
Yep.
Rich, can you scroll up so I can read 2, please?
Oh, sure. Yep.
Rich, the planning board had wanted to have the makeup of the porch enhanced with a bigger fascia board and a higher pitched roof to give it more bulk. That was from the planning board, not the design review.
Yeah, I can maybe separate it out, actually.
Did they change their plan?
Huh?
Did they adjust the plan for that?
They did. Who's on? Hey, you on? Is Patrick on?
Yep. Hey guys, this is Patrick Kennedy, the architect for Spec representing Camdra Coatings. We did not provide an update to the board regarding that. We have it in drawings, but we don't have it sent to you guys just yet.
Yeah, my recollection was you agreed to it at the meeting, but just haven't caught up with it in plans. Yeah.
Correct. Right. We were going to just, further waiting for the design review board to take a look at as well in case they had any comments as well. So
what I'll do, John, is I'll separate this out. I'll go back to the original condition relative to the design review board, and then I'll make this the condition of the planning board.
As long as the design review board sees the adjusted schematic from Patrick, then approves it, that's fine for me.
Oh, okay. All right.
sounds good.
Okay.
All right, any other comments from the board on these 3 decisions that are in front of us? Any comments from anyone in the Zoom audience on these 3 proposed decisions?
I just wanted to ask, this is Katie Enright, the project engineer from Howard Stein Hudson. What was the number filled into the sidewalk fee?
30.
30 times whatever what's the linear frontage?
I think of the frontage.
I believe it was around 100 feet, wasn't it?
Number was 30 that she's looking for.
30 per lineal foot, but that's they want a dollar amount there.
Right.
Oh, sorry.
Right.
Okay,
So
I
what,
can get you the number of frontage right now when we talk.
Yeah, but that's correct. It's the dollar amount was $30.
Okay. Yeah, there's a specific fee, I think, in the decision that's specific to, let's see, we have 151 feet of frontage.
151 feet?
Yeah,
Okay.
so, okay.
4530.
4,530.
Yep.
That's what the math says.
Okay.
I'll put that in the,
Rich, you put that in there too?
yes.
Okay. Any other comments from anyone on board or in the audience? All right, hearing none, then the chair will entertain a motion, 3 motions actually, one for each of these to adopt these decisions.
I would
So
make
we
a
have
motion.
to
Rich,
adopt.
can you put that back up on your screen so we can see it again?
All right,
Oh, sure. Yep.
You could just state your name when you make a motion. That'd be great. Thanks.
yep. Who was that spoke?
That was
I think
Chad. I was just asking Rich to put it up on the screen again.
Okay,
This is Gary. I'll make the motion. I'll give it a shot. I'd make a motion to accept the site plan and special permit application decision number 2019-15 contingent to an acceptable submission of a revised site plan to the planning board.
do we have a second?
Second. Aaron.
Yep. Any further discussion? I think the motion should perhaps say as amended this evening with the comments that were made at the meeting.
For the three stormwater, the earth removal, and the site plan and special permit as drafted.
As drafted, yeah.
If you
All
don't,
right, so we have a motion on the floor, which has been seconded to adopt the site plan and special permit application decision number 29-15.
I'm sorry to bother you. I missed who seconded.
Aaron.
Amy, you okay?
Yep, I'm all set now. Thank you. Got it, Eric.
Mr. whichever you prefer. uh,
To Rich, a couple weeks before the lots were conveyed, and the conveyance attorneys are awaiting.
Did you see my,
Rich, any comment?
no, I think that, do you see it on the screen?
Yep.
Yep.
Okay. All right, so they're carbon.
One of the signatures needs to be notarized, not all of the signatures.
Okay.
I don't know if that helps logistically or not, but it's not
That'll help.
all of the members to appear before a notary.
Well, we can, one of us, I'll be glad to go down to town hall. Betsy typically will come out into the mailing room there and notarize the document, notarize my signature, if that'll help. And then the rest of you can sign.
Aye.
And with us for this evening, Rick Goudreau is available, and Rob is also available in the meeting.
Probably, I'll introduce it, then what we're talking about, and then Rick can fill in, and Rob as we go along. So if you see it took extremely long amount of time for Rob working with whatever source to get this subdivision powered. Onto Medway Street, to avoid the guide wires and the utility poles, because it would come right into this portion of the radius. What we would need to do, if the board agreed with this change, would well, one, modify the subdivision. Two, we would need, correct me if I'm wrong, Rick, but we might need the easement. Is it outside the layout, or is it still all within the layout?
So under this, can everyone hear me?
Yep.
All right. Hi, good evening. Rick Goudreau with United Consultants. So the proposal is to reposition the sidewalk slightly to the south of the original location, which was the guy wire for the existing pole.
Yeah.
So the guy wire is really what's creating the bigger part of the relocation proposal. So, Rich, if we could So what the proposal to relocate the ramp, and you can see to the bottom of the page, just below the Norway Farms Drive, that there's also a proposal which we wanted to discuss with you to eliminate the crosswalk and also to eliminate the sidewalk installation from Norway Farms Drive heading towards Lake Street. So that's why we proposed the ramp location further into the development and the elimination of the sidewalk and the crosswalk. We've had and have been paying attention to the board's discussions earlier this evening, which Rich and Barry had mentioned to us in the field last week, that the board is entertaining payment into a sidewalk fund. Seems that the board has codified that number of $30 per linear foot. We have estimated this sidewalk to be around 380 linear feet that we're proposing for removal. Again, heading from Norway Farms Drive towards Lake Street. So there's actually two things in play. I hope I didn't make it confusing to follow, but with the proposal to eliminate the sidewalk, the crosswalk, and then the relocation of the ramp all kind of tie together. So basically to the east of the project roadway, that sidewalk will in fact be constructed as we had originally proposed. So basically what we're looking at is the view to the bottom of the page, which would be that sidewalk
Rich, can you
heading westerly towards Lake Street to not be constructed and payment into the fund if the board so desired. Thank you.
Rich, on this bottom drawing, can you go back to that drawing?
All right. Yep.
Yeah. The sidewalk runs in front of two existing homes, correct?
That he retained on these lots to be able to construct the sidewalk.
If I remember correctly, there was a lot of back and forth with the residents about saving trees and putting the sidewalk in the appropriate place and all that jazz. So.
Yep.
All right. So their expectation is that there's going to be a sidewalk down there. It strikes me that before we accept the proposal to accept funds in lieu,
I couldn't keep track of the presentation. It seemed like there were 5 or 6 items that were being asked to review. Can someone summarize them?
Want to summarize them? Or revise them? Okay. The poll that was set after the subdivision was approved because it would otherwise interfere with the guy wire. It's hard to see, but there is a guy wire here.
So Rich, just real quick, let's just list them, right? So there's a sidewalk change because of a guy wire. All right. That's one.
Yep. And then the second one, sorry, the wrong way. If you see where my cursor is, this is a sidewalk heading this way towards Lake Street. continue to move forward, keep as is, construct the sidewalk, or we can consider taking payment in lieu of not to construct this sidewalk.
Very rich, but again, that's the second bullet point. I thought I heard like 5 or 6. So there are only 2?
There's only 2.
All right.
Why did the number 380?
Let me see if I can.
I think the question is was that originally part of the subdivision? I mean, there.
The open drainage with a swale, it would be hard to construct. And in an effort with the open space for the idea of connectivity for them.
Way Farms Drive to Lake Street as shown on this approved plan, which was part of the definitive subdivision set. Excuse me. Now, as you can see on this proposal, a crosswalk connected the sidewalk on, thank you, Rich, on the proposed sidewalk side, the easterly side of Norway Farms Drive. Ramps were to be installed. And then the sidewalk ramp coming down from the crosswalk label area where the utility pole is. A crosswalk would be constructed across Norway Farms Drive, connecting to the sidewalk with a handicap ramp on the westerly side of Norway Farms Drive, and then continuing, the 375, 80 feet or so down to a terminus point near the intersection of Lake Street. So that's what was approved. As you can see, at the intersection of Norway Farms Drive, we have the existing utility pole location with the existing pole so that it would not interfere with any of this. The issue has become the area of 2 guy wires. So our proposal now is work on utility company to not construct the sidewalk between Norway Farms Drive and Lake Street. And then number 2, to relocate a portion of the sidewalk by flattening out the radius to a straight section and basically going between the, thank you, Rich, between the guy wires and the property line with a relatively short, straight piece of sidewalk. Now, what that has done is if the board was inclined to agree to not have the developer construct the sidewalk between Norway Farms Drive and Lake Street, we would no longer need the crosswalk. And the curb ramp location has been moved further back into the development so that it would provide for people to cross into where the 2 parking spaces are and where the proposed mailbox location was. Now, the mailbox location has been relocated, but that area was basically set up for school bus children to be picked up and dropped off, parents to be positioned in those 2 spots, things of that nature near the intersection. So I'm always of the mind to relocate or reposition handicap ramps and exit points to sidewalks away from the intersection, if possible. I don't like them mid-block, but a little bit away from the intersection. That way it allows for less potential conflict as somebody is coming into the development. So the result of the two proposed changes, one is the elimination of the sidewalk, one is the relocation of the sidewalk. I guess you could say snowballed into the relocation of the ramp, which was traveling through where the guy wires have been installed, and that obviously isn't going to work. And then it comes to the point of, do we need the crosswalk if we're not going to construct that length of sidewalk? So I don't know if that clarified it for you.
We're up to 4 changes. That's good.
Well,
yeah, it's a lot more clear, Rick. Thank you.
Okay.
So
Thanks.
just
Sorry about that.
no problem.
And again, it's if the sidewalk is not constructed and the board feels that they want it constructed, then the ramp's going to be relocated from where we're showing it now, and the crosswalk will be added as well. So those two are really dependent on if in fact that sidewalk is or is not constructed heading between Norway Farms Drive and Lake Street.
So all of this was set off by the guy wire.
That's what caused us all to meet on the site. And at that meeting, we came up with the alternative to relocate the sidewalk. And then the discussion began about eliminating the sidewalk.
Right, so on Main Street, there's at least 2, if not 3 guy wires that I walk under going to the train every day, or at least when we were going to the train. So couldn't we get Eversource to come in and put in a canted guy wire and just go back to the original plan?
They are canted guy wires that you could walk under. But if you can see, there's actually 2 guy wires. So at the southerly end of those guy wire label lines are a vertical guy wire. So I would estimate, Rob, maybe you can clarify, it's probably 8 feet up. There's a horizontal wire that travels out, and then a vertical wire that travels down at the end of those lines. So could the sidewalk ramp go underneath those and provide access? Yes, that's possible. But the radius would travel right through those vertical guy wires. If we went back to the radius sidewalk, I guess I should say.
So let me ask the question a different way. Is there a solution that maintains something close to the original intent?
Well, I think this does maintain the original intent.
Except
I think you're still providing a
300 feet of
connection.
sidewalk and a crosswalk.
I'm sorry?
Except for 300 feet of sidewalk and a crosswalk, which are gone.
Well, that's a
right?
separate, that's a separate issue. I mean, what
I don't
I'm,
know, is it?
well, it is or it isn't. I mean, that's really up, that's at the pleasure of the board. What I'm saying is we've come up with a solution to address the guy wire issue. Okay, and relocating a portion of, if the board, Rich felt, and we agreed that if the board was so inclined to entertain, which we're not really going to talk about this evening, unless Attorney Maitland would like to speak to that. Number 2 would be the relocation of the sidewalk portion caused by the guy wire and Lake Street. And then 2 sub-items would be the relocation of the ramp and the need or elimination of the crosswalk. And that's going to be dictated on the board's pleasure of the sidewalk installation to Lake Street.
Okay, so we're going to have a public hearing on these proposed changes, correct, Rich?
Yeah, you would have a public hearing on these proposed changes. But I know, at least hearing from Aaron so far, it may be wise to maybe have DPW invited the rationale on the other piece of it, which is the sidewalk that's heading towards. There's concern about it. I'd rather have, maybe clarify a little bit more before holding a hearing, and then hold the hearing. Maybe one more bite at it.
If I may interject, Elizabeth Maitland, we do, I believe, have to have a modification hearing on this one way or the other, if that's the way it needs to go. And I do agree that I think it would be a good idea to hear from the DPW, since they're the ones who proposed the sidewalk elimination issue, which was not an original thought of the developer. It was just dealing with the problem because of the installation of the guide wires, which were not as Rick had originally proposed it. That was begged because of that problem, but the sidewalk issue had been broached by him. So I agree. I think it would be a good idea to have him available. And in light of the earlier discussion this evening, I think the discussion was too, there's no hearing as well. But in light of the fact that we have to appear for a public hearing on this issue, what I would like to just propose just very briefly or get some input from you on, we did have the discussion on the lot coverage issue. There's no public hearing modification of both the subdivision approval and or the special permit if the board deems that that's the appropriate vehicle vis-a-vis the lot coverage issue. And then both of these issues can perhaps be discussed at the June meeting.
Officer Bob Bullock?
No, Mr. Weddleton, I did not. I'm going to be frank.
Well, if he okayed it before you came and see us, because it would be a waste if he wasn't on board.
I agree. I understand that now after speaking with Mr. McCarthy earlier, and I promise you I will pursue that before we make the presentation to the board next.
I could address that, but this goes way back. So again, the idea of the community, whatever, I had proposed that, and that we were asked not to include that because the feeling was that it was going to be more of an attractive nuisance than something that would really benefit the kids.
Okay. Yeah, I just saw that on there that was approved, and I was like, well, if we were considering to remove the sidewalk going towards Lake Street, maybe we at least continue the sidewalk all the way to that bus pickup location, the bus shelter. But it sounds like that's been reconsidered as well.
Yes, that was during one of the earlier meetings, way back.
Okay. So there really, if I understand it, there really wouldn't be any particular need to include the sidewalk on both sides of Norway Farms. Really wouldn't be the need for the crosswalk and just to bring it over just for a little bit. That would be pointless, it sounds like.
Yeah, except for the fact that at some point in time, the planning board thought it was a good idea.
Right. Well, it sounds like the original plans were approved this way because instead of putting sidewalk on two sides of the street inside Norway Farms, let's do the sidewalk on one side of the street, and then the second sidewalk would be out here.
Yes, that's correct. It was roughly about the same footage.
Yep.
That was a driving factor rather than, giving money to the town or whatever. I said, well, I might as well just put it out in front of our place.
Yep.
So.
And fast forward now 3 years and things have changed again. And so now let's reconsider this piece from Norway Farms to Lake Street. And it sounded like what we said before, the DPW was the one that kind of brought that up. Like, hey, this sidewalk doesn't serve a huge purpose at this point.
The beginning of the conversation with them after we had dealt with the crosswalk and the guy wire issue was to get rid of some of the meandering aspect of it. So if the town connected to it and they went to plow it, the guys wouldn't be,
I understand,
plowing into people's front yards or trying to go down the street where there was no sidewalk. It'd be a lot more straightforward just to move that picket fence and just come right down the street. And there are a couple of trees in there that are a little bit tight right above the Y in Medway Street.
Mm-hmm.
But prior to Barry, we had looked at this with Bob McGee, and Bob thought that there was probably enough room that we could squeak through there and make it a little bit, straighten it out a little bit. So.
Okay.
How far does the sidewalk go in the direction towards Main Street?
It's basically 2 lots in either direction, and we have 150-foot frontages. So you're about, Rick, you worked on it today, but you're basically like 600 feet in each direction, give or take.
No, it was about 400 feet from the intersection of Norway Farms Drive to Crestbrook. Rob, I believe it was 400 feet or so, 385 to 400.
Oh, you have that easement in there.
Right.
Correct. So you have the section from the crosswalk area traveling to the end of your frontage, where the beginning of lot 31, the house number 31 lot begins.
Yep.
So you've got that little piece plus the 300, and then you kind of wrap around and tie into Crestbrook's sidewalk where it terminates.
Yep.
So that would provide basically a loop from someone starting at the Crestbrook Medway Street intersection, being able to travel up Crestbrook Road to the cul-de-sac on a sidewalk, and then through the trail that was created and constructed by Mr. Kane that connects the cul-de-sac of Crestbrook Road to the cul-de-sac that's just been constructed for Norway Farms Drive. And then someone could traverse down the southeasterly side of Norway Farms Drive on their sidewalk out to Medway Street, and then take a right where the pole is located at the intersection, and then traverse the sidewalk that's going to be constructed along Medway Street back to the corner of Crestbrook and Medway.
Yeah, to me, it makes sense to head in the direction of Main Street. There's just a lot more to connect up to.
And that's still being proposed. So there's basically, a loop heading down Crestbrook Road. You can see the path that's been cut from Crestbrook Road into the development that's under construction. There's a sidewalk at the cul-de-sac traversing back up to Medway Street. And then the sidewalk will be constructed along Medway Street, basically creating a big loop for the two neighborhoods to be
That's good.
Connected via sidewalks and trails.
Yep. Great. Thank you for the clarification on that. I think it looks like a good compromise.
Oh, okay, well, we will be very happy to present, an application for modification amendment. We'll get on your agenda for next June and hopefully can wrap it up.
Thank you, Elizabeth.
Thank you all.
Thank you.
Okay.
So Chris Henry, 30 Boardman Street. So I would make some counterpoints, being that, this small sidewalk that we're talking, the argument for keeping the sidewalk as it goes to Lake Street. Number one, I have no doubt in Rich's ability to work around the guide wire. So I don't see that as being a big, obstacle. Number two, I think we're sort of waiving already the subdivision requirement for the sidewalk on the other side. So the benefits of the town was this leg that heads towards Lake Street. And I did hear the argument of, to nowhere. And I agree that right now it's seemingly nowhere, but, one of the largest sidewalk neighborhoods that we have in Norfolk is the Cape Cod Estates, which is just down the road from this Lake Street connection. So while this doesn't get us all the way there, it gets us 300-400 feet closer. So, and when we, in my opinion, undervalue the cost of these sidewalks in reality to what we charge the builder for them. So we, as an example, we're charging, I think, $30 a foot or something like that. Whereas the DPW, I think, estimated it to be over 100. So we're sort of already discounting, already. I think to give away that 300 feet of sidewalk is short-sighted. You know, maybe it doesn't connect now, but maybe through other developments, there'll be more money in that sidewalk fund, and we'll have a way to fund that connection to, like I said, Cape Cod Estates is one of the biggest neighborhoods, and you know, the sidewalks come really close, but don't quite make all the way there. Medway Branch, as an example, where the sidewalk comes all the way down to Tucker and then stops short for that last 500 feet. So, you know, we kind of have these sidewalks to nowhere all over. I think we take the opportunity to, we've got a builder here and a planning board that laid out in advance, even the other two lots that this sidewalk is proposed to run in front. The planning board at one point or another said, hey, it's a good idea to have these setbacks in this frontage here. It's there already. So let's take advantage of it. That's my opinion.
All right, well, we welcome your comment and look forward to hearing further discussion on it at the public hearing next month or when we schedule that.
Thank you.
All right, any further discussion on Norway Farms? All right, hearing none, thank you all for that discussion, and we will move along on our agenda.
Thank you. Good evening.
Thank you.
Yep.
Thank you. Take care.
Let's see, next item on our,
You're muted, Gary.
yeah, you're muted.
Office, but yes, I would make a motion to accept the meeting minutes as written from the April 14th, 2020 planning board meeting.
We have a second.
Again, this is Chad.
Abstain. I haven't read them.
Okay, Mr. Peck,
Aye.
Mr. Searle,
Aye.
Chair votes aye. All right, thank you. Let's see, town planner updates, housing choice grant recap of the kickoff meeting on 5/7 of the Norfolk Center Wastewater Master Plan. Rick, you want to update us?
Sure, let me just
Rich, I should say, not Rick, Rich.
no, that's fine. So just quickly, the points on the screen. You see the screen?
Yep.
Okay. So we did have a kickoff meeting last Thursday with the engineers for the wastewater master plan, putting together the sewer district boundary, discuss some options for it, and what the proposal we'd like to do. The next step is have a essentially joint meeting with the B1 committee and the planning board at the B1 committee meeting at the end of June, the 29th of June, you see there, to just review the limits of the wastewater district for now. And then after discussing that district boundary, confirming it, then they would go into looking to develop flow and loads for potential build out of the district from a sewer flow capacity side of things. And just as a recap, we have right now the wastewater treatment plant has 30,000 gallons a day is the flow to the plant. Part of this study is analyzing the potential for reutilizing unused capacity because we're actually not flowing at the design flow volume to the plant, as well as potentially looking at further expansion of the plant for additional flow or other alternative options, which we'll be looking at as far as the master plan study, which would include looking at another wastewater treatment plant potentially based on flow volume, or perhaps tie into the wastewater treatment plant at MCI Norfolk, which is going through a design upgrade process right now. So part of the, so again, part of it is district boundary designs, pick a preferred option and then carry it through for potential hard cost, soft cost, with a wrap up of the report by February of 2021. And one option that is being analyzed is a no action option, which essentially status quo, don't do anything with the wastewater treatment plant. That's kind of a quick overview.
Okay, any questions on that? All right, thank you, Rich. You want to talk about streetlight specs?
Yeah, if I can. So the issue of Abbeville, which is the comprehensive permits before the planning board for approval right now, they have requested a street light that's not within our specs right now, division regulations. So I wanted to bear with me as I'm talking. I want to get to the. I just go get the email here. They have more, if you recall, it's a little bit different fixture type. So in Norfolk Center, we have the kind of the traditional light fixture, but then at the radiuses of the curve, on the curves, we have more of a top hat, not a top hat, but with the light downcast. So they're looking to use the
Are you trying to screen share?
yeah, sorry, as I'm talking. Yes.
Okay.
I'm trying to get the spec so I could show you on the screen. Bear with me, is it? Yeah. So this is the fixture type. Do you see?
Yeah.
Looks good.
So this is the fixture type that they're speccing out. So this fixture would be the fixture type for all the applications. So on the radiuses, but also lining up the street, where right now in our subdivision regs, we have this light fixture type with the gooseneck that extends out over the intersection. They're proposing that they want to use this one in its entirety as a fixture type choice. So I thought it'd be worthwhile to just give it some thought, whether you think we maybe should consider other projects down the road changing the fixture type. There's really no action tonight. It's just more of to kind of give it some thought.
Can you readily put up what we currently have in the regs so we can compare?
Oh, sure. Yep.
Was there any reasoning that they're stating? Is it more efficient? Is it cheaper? What's the?
Well, so that is an LED type fixture, where our spec isn't for an LED
Okay.
fixture, but it's a little more contemporary looking if you look at it. Just bear with me as I get to the but I just got to scroll through.
This would be a good item to have the design review board take a look at.
Yes. If only we knew someone on that board.
It's also, as I understand it, designed to shine the light down and not up, right?
Correct, right. It's more in keeping with dark skies standards. I gotta get through it.
How many lights are on that main street, Rich?
Bill?
Yeah,
Oh boy.
the condos are going to be private, correct?
Yeah, the condos are going to be private. I want to say maybe in the 4 or 5 fixtures range.
And that was approved by the DPA, the DPW locations?
Yes, yes.
Okay, thank you.
Hold on, I'm almost there. Must be the last one. Oh, there we go. So this is our Can you see it on screen?
Yep. That's what we have in town center, right?
Right. And so this one, I know they just recently installed this at, well, Fox Run, because we gave them, I know I provided them this spec for the light. They just installed them at Bristol Pond Estates too. I mean, as well, not two. But so maybe I think, point taken, maybe forward over to design review board, kind of give it some thought. I mean, I like these fixtures, but personally,
Yeah.
Now these, granted, maybe they're not as compliant with dark skies, but they do come with shields too, so you can put shields in the panel to, on the backside if people want to have, light not directed towards the home. And just by the way, these aren't LED. They do make a similar LED, but we haven't converted over to LED.
Is this design compatible with LED?
They do make a fixture like this with an LED light.
Okay.
I don't think it's this company, but I have seen them.
Yeah, I think it's a good idea to let the design review take a crack at this.
Okay. All right. And then, so I'll send that to design review and get some feedback from them. We can report back to the planning.
That's it. You're the last guy on the list here.
All right. That gave me enough time to open something. All right, so we did have a meeting a couple of weeks ago. Some big development, which was important because we're trying to figure out a location to put documents. So we got word today that site was set up. So thank you, Rich, and the IT group. It now just needs to be populated, which is good. But we can put the MAPC report there. Right now, it's buried under land use links. Just we didn't think it made sense to go look there logically. So we'll get that posted, reposted. It'll be it'll show up on the front page of the town site for a while. Until other development is it looks like we're headed towards a very brief presentation at the next town meeting from the MAPC on the report. Sort of introduce it to the town. Again, that's more of a presentation, not a discussion type scenario. And then we had a pretty good meeting where we agreed on sort of I got executive summary stuck in my head, but it's not that, a mission statement. We agreed on some documentation, and then we divvied up the items so that what I'm calling, well, everybody took responsibility, similar to how the advisory board functions. When each item is presented, there'll be a spokesperson for that item from the board who will have the history of the discussion and be able to speak to it. Hopefully from a neutral standpoint.
Do you have a plan worked out to take the proposal in front of the various boards before next town meeting where you?
I'll be bringing the proposals to this board. When we get to that, it's probably 2 months away at least at this point. We had our next two meetings over the next 2 months. We get 3 of the items we're going to talk about in detail this month, and then another 3 the next month. And then there's the month of the town meeting, we have a shorter meeting. So we're probably 3 months away from finalizing the board, similar to what I'm doing now. And hopefully we start to get some informal feedback as we go, say for instance, from the zoning board and things like that. So when we do get the documents posted to the website, I encourage everybody to go take a look at the calendar and things like that. And you'll see sort of what we're thinking for the roadmap up to the fall town meeting. So I think that's it.
Just
Unless there's any questions.
Are the documents on that website, are they available for everyone to review?
They're not there yet, but they're headed that way. Yes, Gary.
Okay, and that's the intent?
That's the
Yes.
intent. Yeah.
So next, there is a B1 committee meeting next Wednesday evening. The subject matter will be height, building scale, and the PMLD. Those are the 3 topics of discussion for next Monday evening.
So that's where you're going to approve the 2.5 story, right?
Right.
No approving. We're just talking.
Okay.
That actually brings up another question, though. I don't know if
Recent history goes back several months when we thought it was appropriate to eliminate that.
yeah, we're still in that. I'm digging all the way back to the beginning. Trying to turn up stones here to see why it's in there and why did we think it makes sense, et cetera, et cetera.
I don't have that recollection, so I can't help you. I wish I did, but I can't help you.
All right. Thanks.
All right, any other business before we consider adjourning here?
I'm sorry, the Henrys have their hand up?
Hi, thank you, Martha Henry, 30 Boardman Street. Aaron, I just wanted to ask on the website, which I'm really glad to hear. That's great to get some visibility on this stuff. Are you going to have an executive summary that outlines the changes? Like, I appreciate the MS or the MAPC report, but it's a year old and discussions have changed since then. And is there a plan to have a 1-pager that allows people to understand exactly the recommendations and where we're at in the process?
A couple thoughts on that. One is 2 pages, but its goal was to summarize and take all of the discussion out of it and just sort of present it in a bulletized manner. So be interested to hear your thoughts on that and see if it's effective.
Okay, great. Thank you. I appreciate it.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, any other items for this evening's discussion? All right, hearing none, then no second?
Second.
All right. All right, let's see, Mr. Weddleton,
Third.
Aye.
Mr. Hunt,
Aye.
Mr. Peck,
Aye.
Mr. Searle.
Aye.
Chair votes aye. We are adjourned. Thank you very much, folks.
Good night, everyone.
Good night.
Good night.